So today, inshallah, we'll be discussing in regards to this raising righteous families. As you can see on the um, the presentation here, the whole topic is about creating an Islamic environment at home. So how are we going to create an Islamic environment? Inshallah, hopefully, we can discuss that in a lot more detail um, as we go along, inshallah. So firstly, um, everyone, I want you to do a small task, which is just think um, for yourselves. If you want to write it down on a piece of paper, it's up to you, so you can remember and reflect over this later on. Is that in one word, think of your current Islamic home environment. How would you describe your environment at home? So think of it in one word, and how would you describe it? Now, once you've done that, you maybe want to write it down just so that you can reflect over this at the end of the presentation, because the idea is we want to see what kind of environment we are in currently and what kind of environment there is at home currently. And then we want to try to improve it. So next we want to do is describe your dream home environment. How would you ideally want your home environment? In one word again, how would you describe it? Right. So now that you've hopefully done this, the idea is how do we get from A to B? If somebody is listening and thinks that maybe I'm already at B, I've already hit my ideal home environment, then maybe I think, mashallah, they may not be able to benefit too much from this presentation. Maybe they'll be able to benefit us more. But the idea simply here is that obviously most of us, we will want our environment at home to become much better. We want the environment at home to become um, better than it is currently. So how do we attain that? How do we achieve that? Because I'm not here to give you a lecture. Hopefully, we're here to try to make a plan. So that's the idea of this particular workshop here, presentation, that we'll come up with a plan, a practical plan that we can all take back with us, inshallah, and be able to improve at least some aspects of what we're talking about. It may not be that we'll be able to bring in every single point that we discuss, but hopefully we will cover enough points to benefit everyone here. So firstly, sometimes when I ask people that A, how do you describe your current home environment? Some people, they say soulless or not very, not ideal or something along these lines. So if a person has a soulless home, a soulless house environment, so what do we mean by this? Obviously, we turn to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which a famous hadith here, in which he mentions مثل الذي يذكر ربه والذي لا يذكر مثل الحي والميت, that the similitude of the one who remembers his Rabb, his Lord, and the one who does not remember him is like that of the living and the dead. So a very similar hadith has been mentioned in Sahih Muslim, where Imam Muslim mentions that the mathalul bayt الذي يذكر الله فيه. So the similitude of the house in which, meaning a household in which the uh, remembrance of Allah is done in, and the house in which Allah is not remembered is like that of the living and dead. So you see that the home becomes a dead home in essence. It's a soulless home, a home in which Allah is not remembered. So that's the first and foremost thing that we want. We want that Allah Ta'ala is remembered in our homes. And the more we remember Allah in our homes, the more spiritually alive our homes will be. And as we know, to those in the sky, the homes in which Allah Ta'ala is remembered, they shine like the stars do to us. So when we look up at the sky, we see the stars, the brighter stars. In the same way, when they look down, the angels and whoever other creation Allah Ta'ala has created in the skies, when they look down upon the earth, they can see those homes shining bright where the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala is taking place. So this is something that we want We want a environment where the barakah, the blessings, and the nur, the light, spiritual light, and everything is constantly descending into our house, our homes. The angels are constantly coming to take the good deeds, taking them back up, and things like this. So this is the kind of thing we want. Now, what creates this soulless home environment is important to identify so we can eradicate those particular points. One is the parents are not role modeling. So what does it mean by this? We will discuss a lot more in detail, but the parents simply aren't bringing into themselves, they're not doing for themselves that which they want, for example, their student, their children to do. So if you have children in the home, and you want them to start doing something, you want them to pray Quran, you want them to pray Salah, you want them to do certain things, then it's important that we also understand that we, as the elders of the house, we must do it also. If you have no children yet, and it's only yourself and your partner, then you want your partner to start doing something. It's important that we also start doing that particular thing. Automatically, slowly, it will rub off on them. And if we want them to start doing something, whatever it is, let's say we want them to pray Quran, they're not praying any Quran, then we're going to have to pray so much in abundance that the environment becomes so, Quranic as such. You're playing Quran, you're reciting Quran, constantly Quran, that some level of Quran they will start to do now. A little bit they will start to do. So we have to kind of go overboard in order to create that kind of environment. So this is in essence role modeling for the home, to pick up on those good qualities that we want them to do. Then if there is deen is not a priority, if Islam, practicing Islam is not a priority, then again this will lead to a soulless home. So it's important that we understand that prioritizing, we have to sort our priorities out, prioritizing deen, Allah Ta'ala, our salah. These are the things that we must do. If, for instance, the salah is maybe in the summer, salah is a bit late, or Fajr is a bit too early, and we feel as though we don't need to disturb the other family members, especially our children, and wake them up from their sleep, or we don't need to let them stay awake till Isha or something because it's too late, then obviously deen has not been given the priority. And if deen to them from a young age has not been given the priority, then they will, unfortunately, this will create a soulless environment in the home. Then we have lots of sinning taking place. If there is a lot of sins, and different types of sins happening, people listening to music, too much TV going on in there, or constantly playing. There's a lot of swearing, perhaps. There's cursing. There's backbiting. There's all sorts of sins happening in this household. Then I'm afraid this will lead to the soulless home again. And lastly, we have no daily spiritual component. We don't have anything really happening spiritually to improve the home spiritual environment. So these are things that will contribute to a soulless home. So what do we want to do? We want to change these qualities and create a spiritual home environment. So how are we going to do that? There's various things we can do. I think certain things here, hopefully we will try to do. This will encompass, hopefully, a lot of the things that we need to understand. First and foremost, we want to try our best, is we want to create this home. We have to understand is the first madrasa, the first place for our children to learn, for anyone to learn. We want to allow our children to be able to absorb the good characteristics that we're going to teach them. For example, here we see that the children become what the parents are consistently embodying. So whatever the parents are doing, whatever it is that they're constantly, for example, on their phone, then the children will grow up to become like that, will constantly be on their phone. If the if the parents are constantly, just watching, binge watching on episodes and episodes of dramas, of serials, of series, of this and that, and constantly on that, then the children will grow up to become like that. If the parents are constantly just doing other things that they shouldn't be doing, then that's how the children will grow up to become. So we want them, if we want them to have this spirituality in their lives, remembering Allah Ta'ala, and all of these kind of good characteristics that we want them to be adopting the Sunnah, then we're going to have to also teach them that. We're going to have to do that for them, because they learn by seeing. As we see, the children, they will learn more by seeing than they would do by listening. Okay, if we keep lecturing them, how many times have I told you, they will not absorb that as much as they would do by seeing us. So we have to create this. We have to, when we are talking, our tone in the way we talk, our character, our mannerism, all of this is something that we must improve for ourselves firstly, and everybody in the household who will brush off onto them. We have to become a very positive person. If we're constantly a negative person, nagging at everything, looking at everything in a negative light, then because we are sending this kind of negative energy throughout all of those around us, and our negativity dominates over everybody else in the household, then this is how everybody in the household will slowly become. Even the ones who are very positive, perhaps, they will start to become this very negative type of person. So we want that we fill our home with positive energy, and that will come by us adopting the characteristics of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the characteristics of that we are being told to adopt in the Sunnah, which we will talk about as well. So parents don't need to, anybody, not just parents, or a husband or a wife as well. You don't need to be an Islamic scholar. You don't need to be somebody who's studied so much in Islam, but and you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be somebody who's perfect yourself. You just need to have sincerity. You need to be wanting a certain environment in the home. You need to, um, you know, strive, work hard, and be willing to improve yourself. That's the most important thing. If you understand that I also have deficiencies, faults, and I need to improve myself, identify those and then try to improve yourself on those particular qualities. Obviously, those around you will notice, and it will brush off onto them as well. So model patience, model truthfulness, kindness, have all of these good qualities. Pray your salah, when you are praying your salah, calmly, because when you pray your salah calmly, slowly, make dua after it, everyone around us will, the children especially, they will copy that tone, that manner in which it is prayed. Establish a prayer culture from a young age. If you instill in your children prayer, or let's say whatever it is, like for example, one particular friend of mine, he explained that how his parents wanted to create in them this quality of, meaning when they grow older, I don't want my son to be out till late past 10 o'clock. I don't want that to be the case. So what they did was they created a habit from a young age. They, every time, whatever it was, they put their child to sleep at 10 or 9 or 10 o'clock. Roughly around about that time, they would consistently put their child to sleep about 10 o'clock. As a person brings this kind of habit of constantly going to sleep at a certain time, what happens is they will then, as they grow older, by the time, even if they want to stay awake beyond 10 o'clock and they stay awake, let's say until 11 o'clock, they will naturally start to feel tired. So even if they're out with their friends and they will be yawning, they'll be tired, they start to get to sleep. Because their body, their habit is that they go sleep at a certain time, and also they wake up at a certain time, so they naturally will feel tired again at these times. So if we have this kind of, whatever the whatever the goal it is, that we want to create a environment of prayer, then we have to make sure that we are constant with it, we are consistent with it. And with that consistency, you will see that the habit will create in the child. I remember one of my teachers when we were studying told us that because he created a habit of always reading something at nighttime, always they would read a book at nighttime, even nights where they've had a long journey and they've got home at 1 a.m. He says that I tried to go sleep because it's too late and I'm trying to get to sleep, but I'm tossing and turning and my brain's just not letting me go to sleep because it's disturbing me. It's like irking me that I haven't prayed, I haven't read anything. I haven't read a book. So I have to pick up the book that's on my bedside table. I pick up a book, I pray a page, I read a page or so, and then I put it away and then I can get to sleep because my brain is now content and calm that you've done something which you're not. So these kind of good habits, if you create in them from a young age, they will become habitual of this. So consistency is key if you want them to really embody certain a certain worship, ibadat, especially things like salah or even Quran recital. So this is something that is very important in creating a spiritual environment. Then another point is balance, warmth, boundaries, and manners. So balancing things is very important. So you can't just constantly be on their case, as some youngsters say that my parents on my case, right? You can't constantly be at their throat, right? You have to be somebody who is adopting balance in addressing them and also in just teaching them and whatever the way you teach them as well, which we will talk about a bit more in detail as well. So because we have to understand the home environment, if we are trying to build in certain spirituality within them and we're trying to teach them Islam, then the home environment will always be competing with everything around them. As we know today, the home environment is competing with, for example, their phones, what their phones are telling them, if they're in school, their school culture or college culture or even university culture, it will be competing with the likes of TikTok and all sorts of other social media platforms. It'll be competing with whatever they hold to be their celebrity idols, right? It will compete with peer pressure around them. Whatever the online trends are, the home environment is competing with all of this. You're trying to create spirituality, goodness within them, and everything around them is dragging them, pulling them towards something else. So then, because of this, if your home environment is not powerful, it is not spiritually empowering, is not, the outside world will shape them. That will shape them. So it's very important that we create a strong, warm Islamic identity within the home that protects their hearts, that protects them, and not only them, remember, it protects us as well. Because creating the spiritual environment at home, we have to understand, is not just for our children, it's for us as well. And we have to see that this is an opportunity. Many parents, they become very overwhelmed at this particular juncture. They think that, how am I going to do all of this? This is too much for me to try to even do. It's not like that. It's just you have to understand that I want to improve myself. As soon as you start to think I need to improve myself, and you try your best to sincerely start improving yourself, you will start to see it rubs off on those around you. And your children will start learning this as well, inshallah. So you have to first start from the right place. Think that having children, having this whole environment, having this responsibility is an opportunity. It's not a burden. It's an opportunity for us to be able to improve ourselves. If we didn't have this responsibility, for example, perhaps we would not have improved ourselves as much as we would have. So because we want our children to pray Fajr, then it will force us that I'm going to have to make sure I wake up for Fajr myself. And because I want my children to, for example, my sons, to go to the masjid and pray their Fajr, then I'm going to have to wake up and pray Fajr in the masjid, not pray at home as well. So it's these kind of concepts, these things that will, inshallah, hopefully allow them to have this strong Islamic identity, which will shape them rather than what the outside environment is shaping them to become. So this will happen with, obviously, we're having these balance This is if we have a balance with love and discipline. So you balance love with discipline, and you do that with clear rules and consequences if rules are broken. So if rules are broken, there must be consequences that before we go on to that, if they were to break the rules. So for example, this phone one is a very common one. That's why I cover this phone one. So if you choose to give your child a phone, it's entirely up to you. Obviously, I don't agree with giving children phones, especially if you're not going to tell them and teach them the boundaries of how to use the phone. Because look, with the phone, you can do so much now, right? Everyone knows what you can do with the phone. Here we are giving them their phones because they feel, or we feel pressured because everyone around them's got a phone, and they guilt trip you to make you feel as though you're being mean and you're not being considerate of them, and they are living a life of misery because everyone around them has a phone and they don't have a phone. So for some reason, you chose to give them a phone. Then what's important is you teach them boundaries. You teach them they have to stick to rules. So, for instance, one teacher of mine, he has this particular rule, which I found to be a really good rule. He has this rule that he has a bowl in the kitchen, and everybody has to, all the children, they have to put their phones into this bowl, and they can only use that phone downstairs in the living room or in the kitchen or something. They can only use the phone there. So they have to, when they come in the home, they have to put this phone into the bowl. If they want to use the phone, you have to go to the bowl, use the phone, and put it back into the bowl again. It's not like you can't keep your phone inside the home. You can't keep the phone with you on your pocket or in your purse or something like that. You don't keep your phone around you like that. If you want it, you use it, you put it back. For those who are old enough will know the concept of landlines. That's the kind of concept here we want to try to create, not something where you're constantly on, or you're like you become the product, right? Because that's what the phone is making you. You become the product. It notifies you, and you're constantly on that. But anyway, that's another topic. The point here is that creating a rule, yeah, it's up to you how you create this kind of a rule. I'm not saying everyone implement this particular rule, but what rule must be implemented is where there are certain phone no-go zones. So, for example, the bedroom is a no-go zone for the phone. The phone cannot go into the bedroom. Yeah, so it's very important that they know that they cannot take their phone upstairs or into their bedroom, wherever it is. Now, this obviously, this incident I bring up with my teacher is because when his children were young, they obviously would put their phone into the bowl. But when they grow to a certain age, obviously, especially your son grows to a certain age, your son will object and say, "Oh, Papa, what about you though? Yeah, Dad, what about you? Yeah, you're keeping your phone." And then that he said that dawned to me that it's true. I keep my phone, and it's like one rule for me, one rule for them. It's not fair, and it doesn't give a good impression that it's okay for me to keep the phone. Clearly, the phone is not harmful then because I'm keeping the phone and I'm taking it to my bedroom. But for you, it's harmful. So why is that? How is it harmful for me and not harmful for you? If it's harmful for all. So that message has to come across very strongly. So he said, I took my phone out straight away and I put it in the bowl. I said, from now on, I would put it in the bowl too. So you see, the idea is that if you want to teach something to your children, you have to embody it yourself. You have to show that with your own example. You have to be disciplined yourself to be able to do that. And you yourself will see the benefits of abiding by these kind of rules. So this is something, an example of where you created a rule with love, with discipline, and there is clear consequences for those. So let's say they do violate the rule. They keep the phone beyond a certain time, which you said that you cannot have the phone beyond this particular time, and they kept it. Because the children will always push the boundaries. They will always try their best to, um, you know, try to get away with it. So there has to be consequences. And the consequences, remember, cannot become so severe that you cannot implement the consequences. Yeah, you cannot implement it because now you feel that maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. Maybe, um, maybe you know what, let them off this time. No, you can't do that because the minute you do that, they will learn that I can break rules. It's fine because there's no consequences. They've said there's a consequence, but they don't follow through. So the consequence doesn't have to be something very severe, but there has to be a consequence. For instance, the phone one could be that you take the phone away from them for a day, that they get no phone for tomorrow, and you took the phone away from them. right? Or for instance, you can, if you feel that's too severe in this particular case, you can make them do something more, like not so severe. You can make them, for example, write lines, 100 lines, give me 100 lines, then you can get your phone. Or you can cut down their time in a certain privilege that they're getting. Or you can reward the others for sticking to the rules and don't give that particular reward to this. Depending on what age they are, you could give, for example, an extra sweet, or you can give them, something, a treat. You can treat them to a dessert or something, where you're giving them a certain reward, but you're not giving the one who broke the rule that particular reward. So there's different ways of disciplining, and utilizing something like this will allow this balance to be there. It's important to create a balance where both parents, if you're talking about parents and children here, that it's important that not both parents become strict at the same time. Otherwise, it's very easy to do that. The mother is very strict, the father is also very strict, and then where does the child go? It's like they got nothing. They feel no love in that home. They feel like, they're not heard, or they're not understood. It's important that if one is annoyed a little bit, and you can see that one's being a bit strict, the other one has to become a bit soft. That don't they come here, understand that this is the reason, not overstepping one another, but making sure that we are balancing for the child, not playing necessarily good cop, bad cop. I don't really agree with that kind of concept, because one becomes that, bad cop in essence, right? There's a bad relationship created with that particular parent then. But we're talking about in particular scenarios. In one particular scenario, if one parent is being very strict because they're very annoyed about something, the other one needs to become a little bit soft. But it cannot be whereby we undermine one another, which we'll talk about a little bit more in detail later on. So now, build Islamic pride and confidence in children. So allow them to be able to adopt and feel proud of their Islamic identity, and that they are proud of praying Salah, of praying Quran, of adopting the Sunnah. These things we want them to really embody. So make them feel proud of this. Otherwise, when they go out, they want to some way change. They want to take the scarf off, or they want to take their, they don't want to dress how the parents are making them dress. They don't want to, have the hairstyle how the parents are telling them to have a hairstyle. Why? Because we haven't allowed them to feel confident in the way that they adopt this Islam of theirs. Or, so it's important that we create this in them so that they feel a sense of belonging towards Islam, that this is me, this is my identity, this is who I am, right? So this is obviously created by, like I say, constantly, it goes back to the first point of where we are role modeling ourselves, these concepts of Islam, whereby, for instance, we are, we're not, because a home will never be a spiritual home, realistically, will not be a place for us whereby no sin takes place. There's no arguments that take place. Nobody slips up. It's not like that, right? Realistically, there will be these things, but a home is where we create, for example, forgiving mistakes. So we tell them that when you slipped up, is no problem. We made a mistake, no problem. We learn to forgive one another, right? And we must make sure that we do that for ourselves. We must learn to forgive our families. We must learn to forgive our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our extended families. If we ourselves hold grudges, our children will hold grudges with each other, because we are teaching them that for me to have a grudge with my brother or my sister is fine, or my parent, for me to shout at them, it's fine. So that's why we're teaching our children that for you to shout at me as a parent is fine as well, or for you to hold grudges with your siblings is fine as well. So we have to make sure we show them that forgiveness is something we have to embody, because this is what Islam teaches us. Repentance, when we make a mistake, okay, you missed your fajr today, make tawbah, repent to Allah. This is something we must do, right? Our hearts are united. We feel supported by one another. So this kind of thing we must create within the home. Now, so this is something that we do. A righteous home is where you have forgiveness and we teach repentance. Likewise, don't counter one another. It's like I said, that we can't, for example, if one parent is saying that you've got till 9 o'clock to play the game, for example, you have to put it away after that. So obviously the children know that it's now hit 9 o'clock. I still want to carry on playing. So they will not go to the one that made the rule. They will go to the other parent and say, oh, can I play for 5 more minutes? And that parent will say, okay. So now what happened? That other parent undermined the parent who made that rule, or whatever other example you can think of. There's so many examples of this whereby one parent is saying something, the other one says the opposite, countering this part, the thing. What's important is that communication between the parents needs to be there, so they know that okay, they've already made this rule, so I don't overstep them. But what's important is that we don't counter one another in the parent. We have to work together. It's partnership. We work as a team. So teamwork is very important when trying to create the spiritual environment. So one parent is saying you have to pray right now, and the other parent is saying no, it's fine, you can pray later on. So you kind of like, okay, the children are confused because the parents are themselves confused. And likewise, not bonding and no bonding, no communication. This is important that we don't do this. There has to be bonding, has to be communication, good communication. So this will happen with smaller activities that we do within the home. So for example, we have times that we are setting for food time. You know, meal time should be set whereby everybody's sitting meal time together. And during meal times, there are certain rules, like, for example, no phones. Nobody is allowed the phone during meal times. So we have the meal time together, and that is our bonding time. That's the time when we're communicating, we're as a family, you know, things like this. So we create these kind of activities which we are doing together anyway, which we are doing, and then we make sure we do it together. Not like nowadays where everything is disjointed. Everyone comes, they eat whenever they want, you know, like a hotel, like a bed and breakfast. They come, they eat, and then they go. Like, it's not like that. It shouldn't be like this. There should be certain times, especially where it is possible, like for example, evening meals, or if there's breakfast that's possible to have together, you know, especially on weekends when everyone's off. These kind of times, there should be this kind of family time, this kind of time for us to be able to communicate with one another. Likewise, there should be a family vision. If there's no family vision, then this will create a very soulless environment where people don't understand each other. I'll talk about this a little more detail. We got a whole slide on this particular thing, inshallah. So what we mean by creating a particular a family vision. So it's important to create a family vision to be able to understand how to improve their spirituality as well. And lastly here, small acts. We have to do the smaller things, that small, easy acts, easy deeds, which will then like for example, teaching them Bismillah before starting everything, making sure they say Salam when they enter, because Salam, when they enter the shaitan, you are repelling the shaitan, you're removing the shaitan from the home, because the shaitan doesn't get the opportunity to enter our home because you've said Salam. So everyone must make sure they say Salam. One person enters without Salam, now shaitan, he's able to come into the home, he's able to partake in the meals and things like this, and he calls all these other shayateen. So important that we repel the shaitan from the home to create this kind of small home environment, spiritual home environment. Like all of these things, we're praying salah, daily, there's Quran time, there's ta'aleem going on. So daily Quran time, like a friend of mine, for example, created a daily Quran time first thing in the morning. So he said to his wife when the first child was young, that look, we're not going to give him breakfast until he prays a bit of Quran. So obviously that time the child had got to a stage where they were able to pray Quran. So they would sit down, pray Quran, and then they would eat breakfast. This environment created. This environment created as the second, third, fourth child now is growing up. They're seeing their older brothers, older siblings praying Quran first thing in the morning. Automatically they will come into that environment. So this is the kind of environment we want to create with smaller, easy deeds like this. Now, Luqman Hakim, what's important is to understand from the Quran how Luqman Hakim, he's known as Luqman Hakim, how he inspired his child to do good. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentions various dialogue of Luqman Hakim. One particular place where he mentions, Ya Bunayya. That's where he says, Ya Bunayya, oh my beloved son. Ya bunayya, la tushrik billah. So the idea is to address the child with love is very important, because obviously love opens the heart before you can start to advise. If any advice is going to enter into that heart, it will be through love. So important to implement this particular quality. We did have a lot to talk about, but I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. So I just want to quickly get through the content here. So we talked about ta'aleem, family circle time. So allocate about 10 minutes daily slot time, read from a small a book. So it does, many a times, some people complain that we're reading and your children are feeling bored. That's because you're probably reading something which is not being comprehended properly by them. So sometimes, especially with children that are younger, you want to be reading books that are story books, there's many books that are, mashallah, out there now on, you have PDFs of them available as well, where you have Islamic books, story books that you can read, Pearls of the Path, or many other books, mashallah, that are just stories. And this will, inshallah, allow them to be interested, because everyone loves a good story. Then give everyone a chance to mention what they learned from that. What did you learn today? What was the moral that you learned, moral of the story, like this? And you have a small 10-minute circle like this. Sometimes people complain that one child doesn't come. I tell them, but they don't come. Maybe they've got to an age now that they don't want to come. But that's fine. If they choose not to come, don't get yourself worked up about it. All you do is reward the ones that are coming, and inshallah, hopefully the other one will automatically start seeing that they're getting some, amazing rewards. I need to start joining as well. And then inshallah, hopefully they will start joining into that session. You see, you have so many benefits. This is a family bonding time. This is also learning, constant learning. You're always learning progressively together. And obviously, many other benefits that you will get from this circle, inshallah. And lastly, talk about, I mentioned, I will tell you about the family vision. What's important is creating a family vision. A lot of people miss this out. Reason being is because, if you go to any company, any big company, corporate companies, they all have a vision, right? Business, they have a vision for their company. This is our vision. And they, decorate it nicely. They put it in a placard. They put it out where in the entrance, when you enter that particular building, you can see it there and then, our vision, right? Why? Is because a company is made up of different individuals, right? They need everyone to be thinking the same, right? Everyone has to have the same vision. So then we can then work towards success, what we think success is in this particular business. In exactly the same way, a family is made up of different individuals, right? So you have to have a family vision. Everyone has to have the same ideology, mentality, mindset. If, for example, one parent wants Deen, Islam, the other parent wants, maybe dunya, and the children want just to relax and enjoy themselves, then everyone's like fighting. There's constant arguments because everyone's vision is different. But if we sit down together and create a family vision, then inshallah, hopefully, you will see that this will allow us to be able to toe in the right direction. So how do you do that is using these particular steps. I'm not going to go through each step, but it's very easy. Just create sit down and draft together what you think. Remember, it's important that you don't push your vision, but you obviously together with everybody in the family, sit down, ask them, what do you think our vision should be? What do you think we should create in as part of our family vision? Just to give you some small examples here quickly. So when a certain family sat together, they made this vision. In our family, we listen, we forgive, we try again. We put Allah first and we lift each other up. Another family, they chose to make a vision that we choose kindness, honesty, and hard work. We laugh often, we speak the truth, even when it's hard. So this is a small vision, and you can just frame it, put it where people can see it when they enter. Even people who come as guests, they will think that, oh, you smile in this house, so I need to smile as well. So inshallah, hopefully you will see that they will adopt these kind of things. Lastly, dua. Obviously, above all, dua is very important. We must make dua for ourselves, for our families. Without Allah Ta'ala's help, this is one very powerful dua. Without Allah Ta'ala's help, we can't do anything. So this is things, inshallah, hopefully this will create a spiritual environment. Sorry for going a little bit over time maybe, but inshallah, hopefully this will allow us to be able to create a spiritual home environment.
Jazakallah Mufti Sab for that. That was absolutely amazing, mashallah. Very inspirational, a very informative and instructive talk by yourself. At this point, what we'd normally do is we would open the floor for our guests to pose questions. But because we tend to wrap up within the hour, what I will do, inshallah, is I'll post some questions here. Now, what these are, Mufti Sab, are they're quick fire questions. And the idea is that there's two rules about these. One is that we want you not to overthink the answer, and number two, not to sit on the fence. So there's a series of questions, about 8 to 10. They're all to do with the topic. And if I could get started on those, inshallah, should we
That's
make a
fine.
move on those,
Absolutely.
inshallah? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The first one is, what's one thing parents should stop doing at home?
Arguing in front of their children.
Amazing. Jazakumullah. I think we can all take a lesson from that. Number two, one thing parents should start doing immediately.
Learning, always wanting to learn and improve, right? Just constantly being somebody who's soft and gentle to be able to improve one another. So like constructive criticism, if I would say.
Fantastic. Jazakumullah for that. What's one thing your own teachers taught you about family life, apart from something that was already mentioned now?
Um, to be gentle and kind towards our family.
Fabulous. Jazakumullah. Your favorite moment of the day to connect with family spiritually?
Favorite moment of the day is probably the ta'lim time.
Excellent. An Islamic habit you grew up with that you still keep to today?
Fasting.
Jazakumullah. One way to make children love the Quran without pressure?
I think a lot of virtues, making them understand the virtues and benefits in dunya as well as akhirah. Inshallah, hopefully that will create love in them.
Inshallah. A common mistake families make when trying to become more spiritual and Islamic?
Going 100 miles an hour, going too fast, not taking it step by step, slowly.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can all be more mindful of that one, inshallah. A family activity that builds both connection and iman apart from ta'lim.
Apart from ta'lim. Um, Sometimes it's like sitting together and making dua.
Subhanallah.
So a dua, being thankful of, for all the blessings we got. So sometimes it's very powerful.
Jazakumullah. The most underrated sunnah for family life.
Most underrated sunnah for family life. Smiling.
Subhanallah. It's an amazing one, that is. Final one. Which city in the world would you say is the best to travel to as a Muslim family outside of the three holy cities?
Oh, mashallah. I would say probably Jordan.
Subhanallah. Would that be Amman?
Yeah, perhaps a few places in Jordan, because obviously there's a lot of Islamic history, very rich
Subhanallah.
Islamic history.
Amazing. Jazakumullah for that, Mufti Zubair Sahab. It's been a truly enlightening evening with yourself. Allah reward you and Allah accept your efforts that you are doing for the various organizations that you work for and that you founded, mashallah. And Jazakallah ta'ala for our guests for tuning in, inshallah. Again, we'll have our next seminar, inshallah, in 2 weeks' time. Details of that will be posted on our WhatsApp channel. Jazakumullah again.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.